balls. We all use them, we all talk about them, but actually, in all seriousness, what is the difference? We've got 4 different types of balls. We've got Callaway, Taylormade, Titleist and Srixon, 4 of the premium golf balls out there, the Pro V1, the Z-Star, the Chrome Tour and the Tp5. What are the differences? We try to keep the same category of ball, so rather than going up, for example, the equivalent of a Pro V1 X was a Pro V1. So these are in theory the same kind of type of ball, i.e. the lower spin premium ball. We're going to compare them all with driver, 6-iron and wedge, look through the data and just look at what are the differences. Are there trends, are there patterns, and does one suit a certain player style or flight profile more than the other? So we'll get cracking. This will be a tiring one, but we'll give you as much info as we can, but we'll run through wedges first. So we're going to start off with partial wedge shots. So a half swing with a 56-degree wedge. So look at where the launch and the spins are. Going to start with Pro V1, run through the 4 different ball types, and then I'm going to summarise after we've done wedge shots, look at what the data is, summarise the differences, and then we'll move to 6-iron, do the same thing, and driver and do the same thing again. Shots will be sped up, so I don't swing at this speed normally, but we'll get through the shots, get half a dozen or so solid shots with each, and then run through the data. Let's go. So some quite interesting results here. Now bear in mind, this is a human testing, it is not robot testing, so there are some slight variables in my swing that will create marginal variables here. However, there's enough to see a trend. I think what we're seeing from all of these is tight consistency of shot pattern on here, and fairly small variables in spin. So what we can particularly see is actually with the Taylormade how tight the spin variable is there, that tolerance on the bottom. But really I think what we're going to look at is where are the launch and spins relative to one another. So one of the things which is actually might slightly surprise you, however the Pro V1 has become lower spin over the last couple of series, is that the Pro V1 has the lowest spin relative to launch angle of any of the balls. And actually the Taylormade has the lowest launch with one of the higher spins. So actually proportion of spin to launch angle is noticeably a little bit higher on the Taylormade ball there. Z-Star and the Callaway, very, very similar. Launch-wise 0.2 of a degree, spins only a couple of hundred revs difference. But we can see the Pro V1, one could say, languishing a couple of hundred revs lower in spin than the others. Now bear in mind, it's a human test, not a robot test. So as I said, there are tolerances there. We do have yardage-wise a 3.5 yard top to bottom average there, and a slight club speed variable. So again, it is not absolute data. However, there's a lot of consistency here. When you get to the urethane covers, they grip the face well. They all create a good amount of spin, and for each of these, we're seeing some really quite consistent numbers. But what is quite interesting is, as someone who's always spun wedges quite a lot, actually seeing the Pro V1 that little bit lower spin relative to the other balls. Actually, if you're someone who spins your wedges a lot, then playing the Pro V1 will pare that spin down a little bit more. From a feel point of view, what was really noticeable was when I went to the Taylormade ball, I had a little bit more of a click, a slightly harder feel off the face. This is again something with wedges that you may be sensitive to. The softer feel ball, the Titleist actually very good from a softness point of view. Z-Star and the Chrome Tour very similar, but small variables in the wedge end of things. I think it'd be interesting to see, do we see bigger trends moving up to the 6-iron? So let's go and hit the 6-iron first, and then we'll come back and do the same, check over the data. So same process we've just done with the wedges. We're going to run from the Pro V1 through the Srixon, through the Callaway, through the Taylormade, 5 or 6 shots with each, get some good base data, and take it all from there. So looking at the 6-iron data here, we're starting to see a little bit more variation. Now, with the wedge shots, you're really looking at the cover and how does that impact the launch and the spin, because you're not really using the core at all. Moving on to 6-iron, club speed's up. We're starting to compress the ball a little bit more, so you're getting a bit more of a reaction from, at the very least, the mantle layers, the outside layers. The core is squashing in a little bit, so you're getting a bit of a reaction on the spin side of things from the structure of the ball rather than just the cover. So what we can see here, starting with the Pro V1 is one of the lower spin balls, which I'd expect it to be. It's what we found with the wedge, but it's where the design elements are. That backspin for me being just a hair under 5,000. Now, because I hit a high enough flight and have enough ball speed, that's enough spin for me. So I don't like to see a heavy spinning ball, which is why I have gone to the Pro V1 over the last couple of seasons. But on the stronger side, moving to the Z-Star, now marginally open on the face, so that's lifting it up a touch, but launch and spin is noticeably that little bit higher. It was also a noticeably slightly softer feeling ball as well. So if you like a mid-spin, softer feel on your irons, Z-Star, that's a really nice one to go to. It keeps a little bit more launch, but definitely keeps the spin just a few hundred revs higher as well. Flip of that is, it is a little bit less long. So depending on where your optimum ball flight is, if you're looking to gain a little bit of height and spin, definitely want to have a little look at the Z-Star. Now, the Chrome Tour, the Callaway, this was a ball that actually felt pretty hot off the face. The sound of it was fast. Now, you look at the data, go, well, it didn't actually show out. I know it's something that both Taylormade and Callaway have prioritised with their ball, and Titleist, with their launch of a new range of balls next year, that's another area where they're looking at optimizing ball speed in the mid-irons. But very neutral. If we're looking at it as an overall, this one sits right in the middle in terms of mid-launch, mid-spin of these 4 balls. Really nice balance of flight, and certainly consistency-wise, again, we're seeing each of these very, very consistent data, less than 200 rev variations. That's obviously me rather than the ball, but it's nice to see that consistency. And then to the Taylormade, just pulled the flight back down a little bit. Now I got a little bit steeper on this, so that's pulled the launch angle down a fraction. But spin-wise, very, very in line with the Pro V1. So, but seeing good ball speed from this ball as well. So, we're talking a mile an hour, which then gives you two yards or so. So it's small gains in terms of distance. The biggest gains are in, and losses are into launch and spin. So if you're looking with these 4 balls for the highest flight, the Z-Star is giving you that. And for the flattest flight, in this instance, close call between the Tp5 and the Pro V1. But all around, a little bit more variation here. So let's now go on to the driver. This will really wear me out. And see what variations come there. And then we'll have a look at the overall, are there any trends that we're seeing from a long game point of view from each of the balls after that. So moving on to the driver. This is the one most people want to see the difference. It'll be interesting to see whether that difference amplifies up the bag. We saw more with the 6-iron than we did with the wedge. We'll see whether that increases even more when we go to driver. So same process, 5 or 6 shots with each, get the base average of the shots, and I'll give you a run through after that. So I'm now very warm after doing that, wearing all of this. For continuity, I thought keep it on though. So really interesting this. I thought we would see a little bit more divergence when we got to driver as the cores loaded that a little bit more. Looking at the data here, there's a little bit of variation in launch angle. Unsurprising for me again, using the ball, the Pro V1 is launching that little bit lower than the other balls. Now, with the driver, angle of attack is pretty regiment. I've got 0.6 of a degree between them, path is 0.2 of a degree, face to path is 0.7 of a degree total. So actually, reassuringly, as far as human testing go, there's some very, very consistent shot data there. So launch angles, the Srixon, the Callaway and the Taylormade are as near as damn it identical, 0.2 of a degree. The Titleist is 0.8 of a degree lower launch. It is a lower launching ball, the Pro V1. Now, it's what it's designed to do. Pro V1X is the higher launch, higher spin ball. This one is the lower launch, lower spin ball, and it is that little bit lower than the other brands. With the Callaway, the Chrome Tour, just kicking up that little bit more than the others without it being angle of attack based. What we can see is the spin rates are very, very, very similar. Looking at 2255 with the Pro V1, 2237 with the Z-Star, 2119 with the Callaway, and 2424 with the Taylormade. Now, again, it's a human test. There are going to be variables within it. What this shows us, when you're going to balls of similar categories, is that actually your strike point is going to vary the spin more than the ball will. Now, within the testing, particularly with the driver, there were a couple that I hit low in the face, there were a couple I hit high in the face. So I've taken those out because that's not a fair test on the ball, that's human error. But these are all, as you can see, there are no italics, it's all measured data. And consistency-wise, again, a little bit more from the Srixon. Now there was one maybe slightly higher on the face that looped the spin a little bit lower, which is maybe pulling the average down a fraction, but 160, 130 and 90 rev variation, so very, very consistent. I expected the Taylormade to be marginally lower spin, marginally, than it was. However, they're all perfectly within an acceptable window. But what this shows, it's more launch angle that's varying with these four balls than the spin rate. The spin rate's really pretty constant. Ball speed, they're basically all maxed out, 149 smash all the way through. The marginal club speed variables, a mile an hour or so top to bottom is created, 1.3 mile an hour variation on ball speed. So none are faster ball speed when you get to driver than any of the others. We're more likely to see that with the irons than we are with the driver. But this is really about that initial launch angle, whether a ball pulls the launch down a little bit or lets it peak up a little bit. So yardage wise, we have a sum total of 3.2 yards top to bottom, which I thought we might see more than that, quite honestly, but in some respects it's reassuring that they are very, very consistent. So I must say, to hit with, the Taylormade sounded fast off the face. It had a little bit of a different pop sound off of it versus the other balls, but all in all, really good data. So I'm going to do a little bit of a summary and then we'll round it up for you. So the overall summary to this is they all invest a lot of money in golf balls. They're all putting huge amounts into this part of the market because it's the one bit that you have to keep buying, because they're all going to lose them or wear them out in some shape or form. Thin one out of a bunker and then it's absolutely ruined. So this is a part of the game that there's not one big brand out there that's not putting the investment in. And what we're seeing are some really consistent results. The quality of the balls has really tightened up over the years. And what we're seeing here, the variations between the balls has really tightened up as well. So whilst the ball make a claim of much more ball speed than another brand or much lower launch or higher spin, the changes in flight are generally going to be through changing the category of ball. Now by that I mean the lower launch, lower spin versus the higher launch, higher spin. So we take Titleist, which everyone's familiar with. Pro V1 will launch lower and spin less than Pro V1X because that's how they're designed to. And if you're looking for significant change in flight, you have to make that type of change rather than just same category of ball, type of ball with a different brand. Where we did see the biggest change, it's really in iron spin. That's where, in the mid-irons, that's where you're going to see the biggest differential between the balls. Looking at the same style of ball. Driver, very, very similar, a couple of hundred revs difference, but very similar. Wedges, equally speaking, very similar. But in the mid-irons, that's where we saw a roughly 10% change in spin, which can be the difference between a slightly higher spin flight that holds the greens a little bit more or a slightly lower spin flight that doesn't spin off the front of them quite as easily. But that's where the majority of the differences were. From the wedges to the driver, we were really talking minutiae, but it boils down to feel, personal preference. Putting, that's certainly going to be another area from a feel point of view that you can distinguish between the different ball types. So going through these, ultimately, well done to all the ball manufacturers because they're making great products. But it does give you more of a subjective choice between them. However, if you're going to use the ball to fine tune one area of the bag, it's going to be in the irons where you're going to see that most. So hope you've enjoyed the video and enjoyed a bit of a dive into the different ball types. We will be doing more of these kind of tests, so kind of across models within a particular brand and maybe some different comparisons as well. But if you've liked this, check out some of the videos on the site. Hope you've enjoyed it. Subscribe, like, check out all the other videos on the channel. We'll look forward to seeing you again really soon.